Implications for Africa from China's One Belt, One Road strategy. This is by Paul Nantulia. Launched in 2014, One Belt, One Road, presented internationally as the Belt and Road, is China's signature vision for reshaping its global engagements. It is strategic and comprehensive in scope and an essential component of the Communist Party's twin objectives of achieving national rejuvenation and restoring China as a great power. It now spans 3 continents and touches 60% of the world's population. The end state of One Belt, One Road is the building of a community of common destiny for mankind, defined as a new global system of alternative economic, political, and security interdependencies with China at the center. For this reason, Chinese leaders describe One Belt, One Road as a national strategy with economic, political, diplomatic, and military elements, not a mere series of initiatives. 2 components. The Silk Road economic belt establishes 6 land corridors connecting China's interior to Central Asia and Europe, railroads to Europe, oil and gas pipelines from the Caspian Sea, high-speed train network. Maritime Silk Road establishes 3 blue economic passages knitted together through a chain of seaports from the South China Sea to Africa that also direct trade to and from China. Moves to open new sea lines of communication expand China's strategic port access around the world. In 2017, Chinese state-owned companies announced plans to buy or secure majority stakes in 9 overseas ports, all located in regions where China plans to develop new sea lanes. This is in addition to the 40 ports in Africa, Asia, and Europe in which Chinese state-owned firms hold stakes worth $40 billion. China's return on investment from increased port access and supply chains is not all about economics. In 5 cases, Djibouti, Walvis Bay, Gwadar, Hambantota, and Piraeus, which is in Greece, China's port investments have been followed by regular PLA Navy deployments and strengthened military agreements. Saying the funding comes from policy lenders, so-called because their lending decisions are responsive to presidential and geostrategic preferences. China Development Bank and Export-Import Bank of China have committed over $1 trillion. Additional funds come from China's FX reserves and its sovereign wealth fund. The revival of trade routes along China's ancient Silk Road linking China to East Africa is being promoted by Chinese leaders as a symbol of China's commitment to Africa. OBOR increasingly seen as a catalyst for African regional economic integration and competitiveness. Commission for Africa found that East Africa's exports could increase by as much as $192 million annually if new OBOR projects are used profitably. As the early focus of One Belt, One Road, East Africa has developed into a central node in the Maritime Silk Road, connected by planned and finished ports, pipelines, railways, and power plants built and funded by Chinese companies and lenders. A standard gauge railway connecting Mombasa to Nairobi, the biggest investment in Kenya since its independence. From Djibouti, the Maritime Silk Road connects planned and completed Chinese port clusters in Sudan, Mauritania, Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, Gambia, Guinea, Sao Tome, Cameroon, Angola, and Namibia. Another route links Djibouti to Gwadar, Hambantota, Colombo, Myanmar, and Hong Kong. The final arc of this corridor connects Walvis Bay to Chinese port clusters in Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, before connecting to Gwadar. And then talking about Beijing's military posture matches its expanding maritime and naval reach under OBOR. In Kenya, but the imports of Chinese cement increased tenfold in 2016 while the Nairobi-Mombasa Railway was being built. Offloading of Chinese excess capacity in Africa has not been without problems. In East Africa, Kenya has been hardest hit. In 2017, Kenya's cement exports to the region dropped by 40% due to the flood of Chinese cement entering the country. That year, the World Bank warned that Kenya's competitiveness was declining due to the influx of Chinese excess capacity in Tanzania and Uganda, which increased by as much as 60%, while those from Kenya grew by 4% and 6% respectively over the same period. Talking about this policy of protecting overseas nationals, and that African leaders are supportive in this. Beijing has also provided technologies to build local capacity for intelligence collection, surveillance, monitoring and response. This includes facial recognition technologies supplied to Angola, Ethiopia and Zimbabwe, causing apprehension in Africa. East African countries owe China about $29 billion in loans for infrastructure, energy and construction. China, in some cases, has placed more importance on acquiring strategic assets than debt repayment from its neighbors, Hambantota refers, saying these developments set off alarm bells in East Africa, where speculation is rife that Djibouti and Kenya, both highly indebted to China, could lose their ports in a similar fashion. One Belt, One Road can have positive net benefits for African countries, but much will depend on whether the China-Africa relationship can be placed on a more equal footing. It is first and foremost a Chinese geopolitical project designed to advance China's grand strategy. The challenge for Africa is in establishing where its interests converge with China's, where they diverge, and how areas of convergence can be shaped to advance African development priorities. I wrote about the One Belt, One Road in 2017 when I said Xi Jinping's One Belt, One Road program binds the world to Beijing because all the roads and railways have but one destination, and that is China. Same time I was saying Sri Lanka, which gorged on Chinese debt, has had to disgorge the Hambantota port to its creditor. The overarching point is that creditors are not Santa Claus and miscues will exact a very heavy price. Countries will be Hambantoted. August 2018, I was writing about the Indian Ocean economy in a port race. I also quoted Andrew Koribiko, who says the Indian Ocean region is expected to become the geostrategic center of gravity in the new Cold War. August 2013, I was looking forward and saying I've no doubt that the Indian Ocean is set to regain its glory days. I was talking about the energy prize on the eastern seaboard of Africa, and therefore control of the Indian Ocean becomes decisive, and actually if it's controlled, China can be shut down quite quickly.